Good morning, America. I am Mike Wiley, evil radio talk show host, now evil podcaster. Okay, I've accepted the reality that podcasting is now the way of communication for so many. That's why TikTok exists and all the others, and Instagram and Fred Graham and Charlie Graham and today, this is going to be an emergency broadcast. Let me first point to the map of the United States of America. You'll notice there's basically two zones in the country. There's the red zone of where free people live, and there's the blue zone where the slavers' Democrat Party exist and control. Look at these as if like they've got nuclear or some kind of biological disease, and that's why they're blue, because their people can't breathe. That's why they're blue. If the United States was a republic, then the red states would be in charge of the country. If the United States of America was a democracy, then the blue sections would be in charge of the country. 60% of the population is in the blue zones, 40% of the population is in the red zones. And I'm here to tell you that those of us living in the red free zones have had enough of your shit. It's over. Because we are at war. We've been at war for quite a while. Some people just don't know what date we were at war on. We could say that we were at war the day after Fort Sumter was attacked by the Confederate Democrats. Some could say that even after that 4-year war, the Democrats came back and attacked us again when they killed Abraham Lincoln. Now, just because the Democrats have tried to assassinate 7 presidents, and they've been successful in 4, you can take that as being an act of war. Or you can look at what they've done. Now, I have made some notes because I'm going to keep this short and sweet because I can talk for hours. I used to do a 4-hour radio show until this young lady, Hillary Rotten Clinton, decided to take me off the air in Boston because I threatened to run against her in the U.S. Senate race. And that's one thing you can't do is threaten Hillary Rodham Clinton. Let me just say the main issue is that since 2008, I've been aware of a conspiracy to destroy America by the Democratic Party and their Marxist, Leninist, scumbag Chinese Manchurians. I've documented that history from 1993 when it began with the Clintons and the Chinese Manchurians supporting them. And I've done shows on it, so if you want to see that, if you want to see what I'm saying, you have to go to rumble.com, Wiley Information Network, and look up the shows, and the information is there. I don't want to keep rehashing it, but it's there for documentation purposes. So here's our situation. We know that the 2020 election was stolen. I know personally because I've investigated it. I found election fraud in Virginia, in Massachusetts, in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Those were the 3 states whose electors were going to get thrown out on January 6th because those 3 states, while they have Democrat governors, Democrat secretary of states, and Democrat attorney generals, they, unfortunately for them, have Republican legislatures. And the legislatures are, by constitutional law, the only people who can change the manner in which elections are performed or managed. So the Republicans were not going to allow mail-in ballot fraud, and so the Democrats had to do something to make you believe that it was okay, so you wouldn't think that they were. Remember, the biggest part of the problem in the United States is our media. It's actually not our media, it's the media of the blue. Okay, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times. Those are enemies of the state, and they need to be removed. So let me start off this way. For the first time in U.S. history, the U.S. Senate refused to hear an impeachment brought before them by the House of Representatives. The House does the impeachment process, and then they bring the documentation to the Senate, and then the Senate takes it up. But for some reason, for the first time in American history, the Democrat-controlled Senate refused to file this impeachment and can't cover it and rule on it. And it was about Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, who's the guy that was spending $1.4 billion of FEMA money on illegal immigrants. Okay, we know there's a big move. If you're following Democrat fraud and crime over a period of time, you would have known that because they had to fix 2020. And the reason why they had to fix 2020 was because in 2016, when Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump, it turned out that 765,000 black voters didn't vote in 2016. Why? Because they were disenfranchised by Barack Obama, the first black president from Kenya. He's not American. We know that. So they, of course, were disheartened to think that the first black American president would have done what he normally would have done. Think about what would have been if Ben Carson was the first black American president. That would have been great and wonderful. But no, we had Obama. Obama's a fraud. I'm not going to go any further than that, but there's plenty of documentation. There's people in certain areas that have something about him. And of course, all his records are sealed. So we don't know what his college records are. We don't have a copy of his real birth certificate from Kenya and all this other shit. But he's not American. Everything he's done and signed while he was making believe he was president for 8 years is all null and void legally. That day's coming. So now we have Mayorkas pulling some shit. And so the Democrat Senate says, no, we're not going to impeach him. And there's a great video of Ted Cruz tearing the living shit out of Democrats for not taking upon this. And I actually had that on one of my shows. So the Democratic Party is the only political party in American history to try to assassinate Republican presidents. And one Democrat president who was really a Republican. But it's not so much really whether it's Democrat or Republican. What we're realizing is it's either pro-American or pro-international people, okay? Those that love wars, those that love to send our people overseas and let them get killed and maimed and murdered. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly go through these things. I've already documented them before. I already have shows on all this stuff. Okay, but I'm just going to run through it. Okay, first of all, there's a documentation of the Chinese trying to invest in Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton is the first president of the United States history to commit treason by allowing the Chinese, who are our enemies, to get gyro technology so that their missiles could go up into space. And they said, oh, well, we need them because the satellites can't go up there. But now they can shove nuclear missiles up our ass anywhere in the country. Thanks, Bill. Someday you'll get yours. So here are briefly the crimes of the Clintons while they were in office. The first crime. Now, remember one thing. If you go through all this documentation, as I have, you'll realize that the FBI is not a United States entity. The FBI is a foreign Bureau of Investigation. It's not federal, it's foreign Bureau of Investigation. And they have had people inside all these terrorist groups, yet they never stopped the activity. Okay? World Trade Center 93. They knew about this. They knew way ahead about it. They had a guy inside. He was a former Egyptian military guy. He was with the group. They were going in. They were in New York City, going to shooting ranges to practice. And the FBI and the government was watching these guys. Yet they still allowed them to blow up or attempt to blow up the World Trade Center in 1993. Okay, that was February 26th. 2 days later, the Clintons sent them to attack Waco because, remember, the fact that they control the media, they can do whatever the hell they want. So if they can switch to another venue for you to keep track of for a while, you forget about what they allowed the World Trade Center. Now, unfortunately, they also knew about the attack in 2001 in the future. They already knew the plan. It was called planes as missiles. They were going to fly in big jets into the World Trade Towers. It was actually part of Osama bin Laden's Kill Jews program. The first Jew that they killed in the program was Rabbi Maya Kahana in 1990. He was evidently a Mossad agent too. And he happened to have 6 boxes of documentation in Arabic that gave away all the plans, and the FBI had it. They just didn't tell anybody. So they knew the World Trade Center was going to get blown up and then destroyed again. They did nothing. But Jamie Gorelick, who was an operative of the Clinton administration, and she got paid $20 million by being allowed to fleece Fannie Mae of money as her payoff for coming up with what is known as the Gorelick Wall, where she prevented the U.S. government from being able to follow information. So, for instance, let's say 11 Saudis go to Miami to learn how to fly jets. That information couldn't get through the people that it had to go through, and that facilitated the World Trade Center bombing. 3,000 Americans lost their lives. Unfortunately, that's absolutely true. Then you had Waco 93. 110 Americans were killed. That includes 20 children. They were destroyed and burnt alive. The government reports that they don't know how the fires started, but they do know that the 400 canisters they were firing into the buildings of tear gas happened to have this other element that was added to it, and it's been reported had petroleum in it to cause fires. So the Americans and the Clintons burned these people alive. Okay, and then of course Vince Foster. Vince was killed in the White House because he has never signed out of the White House. And that information came directly to me via telephone from a U.S. Marshal whose good buddy was in the FBI in Washington, D.C. and assigned to the Foster murder. Okay, normally if people are going to commit suicide and they're going to shoot themselves, they usually use their own gun. But for some reason, he decided to use somebody else's gun with the serial numbers filed off. He was murdered in the White House. The only person we know that didn't do it was Clinton, because for some reason, it happened to occur while he was doing an interview with Larry King, CNN, and evidently it was done somewhere in the White House. So he was busy out of the way. Okay, and then of course you had Oklahoma City. That was a 1996 campaign event where 168 Americans were killed so that Bill Clinton could get reelected. I've got that covered in the show. It's all truthful. He went from like 41%. He was as bad off as Biden was. Remember, Democrat presidents destroy the nation while they're there. We all know that. And they all win re-election through election fraud. Obama won in 2012. That was fraud. They stole the votes from Florida. and I believe Ohio. That's why it's only the only time those two states were ever won by Democrats. I found that Florida vote. George Bush, George, we know, first of all, we know George is part of the cabal because he's endorsing Kamala Harris. Now, if George Bush was the Republican you thought he was, like I did, he would have been endorsing Trump. But he can't endorse Trump because Trump's an American. Bush and all his Democrat buddies are international scumbags who hate America and just want to take our money and siphon it away. And what they're doing is they brought in 20 million illegals, and they plan on getting them to vote, even though it's illegal to do so, and no law has to be passed in the House of Congress because there's a law that already exists, and I've already covered this. It's clear as day. Just go online, type in law for illegal voting of aliens. It'll come right up there. It's already law. They can't do it, but they're going to try to get away with it because they can get away with everything they can get away with. Democrats can get away with everything they can get away with. And when you control the media, the American people don't really know what's going on. And that's the problem. That's why this show exists. That's why the God's keeping me around for a while, because he needs this big mouth. Okay. Thanks to George Bush, Iraq now is with Iran. Afghanistan is now part of China. The Bidens were able to allow $87 billion of military equipment to go to the Taliban, and of course to give up Bagram Air Force Base. Thanks, George Bush. We won't forget you. But the fact that he endorsed Kamala Harris, it's like saying, okay, I did all this shit. I'm guilty. Then we have Barack Insane Obama. He didn't do a lot of criminal activity because he knew that worst case scenario is that somebody would go ahead and have all his records opened, because right now they're under seal, so you don't know that he's not an American, and all this other shit they're hiding about him. But Obama gave us the Unaffordable Care Act, which was a fraud. Miscellaneous criminal enterprises like the solar panels, they started giving federal money out to some of his buddies for solar panels. And then you have Biden. Biden's tied in with the Ukraine-China scheme. He got $28 million for his family. And between him and Kamala, in a matter of 1 year, they passed 3 bills that totaled $7 trillion of spending, and that gave us inflation, and we thank them very much for that. So we've got also the 220 election fraud that was committed, the 221 to 224 immigration election fraud that's going on now. Helene, when did you ever think that the federal government would shove it up people's ass? Well, let's see. Okay. We have Tennessee. Oh, that's a red state. We have South Carolina. Pretty much red state. We have North Carolina. Pretty much red state. Not over here, but over here where the hurricanes hit. The hurricanes hit. Okay, Georgia, Florida, Alabama. 1.6 million Republicans votes are missing. And if they don't come through, Donald Trump doesn't win. It'll be the first time in history a criminal organization won an election thanks to a hurricane. So, what do we do? You know, I've thought about this a lot. And basically, I think we're at a point where in order to get this over with quick, we don't take all these Democrats and put them in electric chairs. That'll take a long time. Could be difficult. But what we can do is this. Take away the state of Washington from the blue zone and move it to the red zone. There's 2 ways of doing it. You can go ahead and take the red section and call it East Washington. And what you do is, see this red area here called West Virginia? Well, in 1863, West Virginia was part of Virginia. And Virginia was run by Democrats, and they were going to secede. But the people in West Virginia are actually a different group of people that came over from the pond and settled in West Virginia. And they didn't want to have anything to do with slavery, and they didn't want to have anything to do with the Democratic Party, and they didn't want to secede. So what they did was they did secede from Virginia in 1863. It's all legally been done. It's already set up a precedent. And if we happen to, by the grace of God, win the election in 2024, we win this election and we take back the Senate and we take back the White House and we add more to the House, we can do this stuff. But I think the time has come for us to say, gee, Democrats, you people have only tried to fuck us 150 years on 150 years. I think we've had enough. Okay? Yeah, it's over. It's over. Okay? So you have two choices. You can stay in your area, or you can invite the Second Amendment to visit your head. There's the 30 million militia in the red zones. So you've got Washington, Oregon, California. Follow me here. This is very important. Washington, Oregon, California. Remember, the red sections are already red congressional seats. The problem is that there's so many people loaded up in these areas, there's almost as many congressional seats there. But you've got Washington. Remember, we're supposed to be a republic. And in 1913, the progressive Democrats took that away from us by making sure that the U.S. Senate wasn't provided for by the different states, state houses and senates. The states used to be able to put their own people into the Senate and then said, no, that's corruption. We need to have bigger corruption. So we're going to put people in for 30 years. And all we need to do is find millionaires to put them into power, and they get reelected, like that idiot up in Washington named Patty Murray. Okay, she's a gym teacher. A gym teacher. Oh, yeah, I'm a gym teacher. I know all about physics. Okay, like if you're on the top of the rope and you let go, bam! That's physics. See, I know what I've done. Put me in the U.S. Senate for 36 years. Okay. Washington, Oregon, California, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That's 5 states. New York, that's 6 states. Pennsylvania, that's 7 states. Illinois, that's 8 states. 8 states that are majority red. 8 states times 2 is 16. That takes 16 Republican senators and put them into the Senate, and it gets rid of 16 Democrat senators. Now, with that many senators, you can get everything you want done. You can go ahead and finish everything off, but there's no reason for us to live with the Democrats ever again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, there are Democrats that are pro-American, pro-labor Democrats that have been crossing over, and they can stay where they want to, but they're going to have to drop registration to the Democratic Party and become independents, and then see what political party creates itself to take over that area. But we have to get rid of the Democrats. We can't live with them anymore, okay? Look what they're doing to us. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Joe's dead. Joe's been dead, mentally dead for a while. Okay. They're letting a section of the United States die because of a hurricane. And they're saying, oh, we'll give the people $750. $750? This shit can't continue. And there's either going to be a shooting war, which we don't want. Okay, it's great having the Second Amendment. It's great having 30 million Americans armed to the teeth, ready to go. Okay, but we kind of were saving them for when the Chinese decide to start coming at us, and they could be any day now. We have to have the great divorce. The great divorce. All right. I think if you have a great divorce, you can separate the entities, not have any wars, not have any shootings. That was the purpose for the movie Civil War to come out. So all of us to go, oh, we don't want to do that. Now, the reason why that movie was created because the far left knows your days are numbered. Days are numbered. Okay, remember, keep it up. I love you. Bye.